How expensive is Bali? Bali is a tropical paradise for ballers and backpackers. You can definitely blow your bank or get by on a budget on this small Indonesian island.
Before we went, we heard a lot of mixed reviews on how much things cost on Bali. We really didn't know what to expect. So in this video, we're gonna talk about 8 categories and the prices we found on the island.
This category is usually the most expensive category and the category that varies the most. Of course, you can stay in a 5-star luxury hotel for hundreds of dollars a night or a shared hostel dorm for like $5 a night. We met a lot of people doing both of these, however, we are somewhere in between.
Yes. In Canggu, we stayed in this studio villa for about $25 per night. This villa has a spacious open floor plan with high ceilings, private kitchen and bathroom. It was overall clean and a 5-minute scooter ride from the beach. We had a few critter friends, but that's very normal in Bali.
In Ubud, Bali, we stayed in a shared bed and breakfast villa-style accommodation. We found that most of the listings in the Ubud area are private rooms with free breakfast included. Our room cost $22 per night. This room was the minimum we needed, just a private room with a bed and a bathroom. The common area included a kitchen, living room, and piano that one of the other guests used. We sometimes like booking these types of accommodations as you get an opportunity to meet other people.
On Nusa Penida and Nusa Lembongan, our rooms were $16 to $17 per night. These accommodations were just single private rooms with a private bathroom. The Nusa Penida bathroom was partially outdoors, which is very normal for Bali. Food is probably our second largest expense and it varies a lot depending on our mood.
Yeah.
Bali has a ton of Western options that are usually a little bit more expensive than the local dishes. Here are just a couple of examples from places we ate at.
Warung restaurants are your best bet for anyone on a budget. Warung just means family-run restaurant, and they are everywhere. You might find a fill your plate style warung or one with a full menu. The plate price depends on how many different dishes you fill your plate up with and the amount. I loaded up this day, but you can probably fill up for less.
Some popular food dishes you will run across are nasi goreng or mie goreng, which are just fried rice and fried noodle dishes, and you can find them at almost every restaurant on Bali. These dishes will usually range from 40,000 to 70,000. It is not a bad local option to fill up on.
This might have been my favorite Western dish on Bali. I absolutely love most variations of raw fish, so this poke bowl was my jam. This dish was very filling, even for the always hungry Phil, and it totaled to about 90,000, including VAT and service fees. You should always check the menu on Bali since the listed prices do not always include the value-added tax or service fee. These fees can range from 5% to 20%, so be aware.
Pizza is something I crave after eating rice dishes for a while. It can be hard to find good pizza options in Southeast Asia, but Canggu had a couple of surprisingly good pizza options. For a medium-sized pizza, we ended up paying 60 to 90,000. Keep in mind that these weren't the biggest pizzas, but kind of enough for one person.
We personally do not drink alcohol too often, so we can only tell you the prices we saw on the menus. We did not actively seek out happy hour deals, but there were a lot advertised, especially near the beaches.
Yeah. From what we saw, there were a lot of buy one get one deals, and for a local beer or shot, it was only about 15 to 30,000. The cocktails that we would usually prefer were around 50 to 100,000.
We did have our fair share of coconuts and fruit shakes, and these tended to range from 40,000 to 100,000. These prices vary depending on what type of transportation you're interested in.
Scooters and motorbikes on Bali can range from 50,000 to 100,000 per day. It's always good to test the scooter or motorbike as much as you can, as we were offered some very crappy scooters that were absolutely unsafe to drive. Keep in mind, you should always check the vehicle, especially since driving on Bali can be very dangerous. Gas prices were around 10,000 to 20,000 per liter, so overall pretty cheap.
Taxi prices vary depending on the destination and the type of taxi you hire. There are apps like Grab and Gojek that are taxi service applications. These tend to be cheaper than some taxi meters depending on the demand, location, destination, etc. We have heard that Bluebird Meter Taxi is a good company on Bali, but we personally only used Grab and Gojek on the island.
A private driver is perfect for day trips if you want to see places that are further away and annoying to visit via scooter. If you are based in Ubud, it is very common to hire a private driver for the day that takes you to some of the sites in northern Bali. These prices range from 400,000 to 900,000 depending on the season, desired destinations and the company that you use. If you want to visit some of the touristy sites, you will have to pay some kind of entrance fee. There are usually one or even multiple entrance fees when going to any of these places, and that is just how the area and the businesses work here. So here are the prices of some activities that we did. If you're interested in buying souvenirs, cheap clothing, sarongs or wooden carvings, there are plenty of options on Bali for that. Most of the tourist spots even have at least a couple of shops at the entrances and the exits to fill any spur-of-the-moment shopping needs.
These items tend to be pretty cheap. I bought a few of these shirts for 60 to 70,000 each and a cheap colorful sarong for 30,000. I will say I'm not the best haggler, especially when I know it's only a few dollars. I'm sure you can get better deals if you're willing to shop around and negotiate your heart out. If you're visiting Bali, it is likely you'll want to check out some of the smaller nearby islands. These islands are only accessible via boat and the prices vary a lot depending on the company you use, time of year, and your desired destination.
We recommend checking 12goasia.com first to compare prices and see how much it costs to get to some of the islands. Here is what we paid for our tickets.
When you're on these islands, the price for food tends to be cheaper than on Bali. The natural sites are free, so you'll save a few bucks there. We did splurge for a day pass to an infinity pool with a gorgeous view on our last day on Nusa Lembongan, and I definitely think it was worth it.
Everybody likes free stuff, and the good thing is there are still a lot of things to do on Bali which will not cost you a dime.
There are a lot of smaller beaches, hikes, and other spots that are completely free to admire and visit. The best part about Bali is just getting lost and exploring the beauty. Once I got into the editing, we realized we quickly wanted to add how much we spent during our month-long stay, technically like 28-day stay on Bali. We figured this information might be useful for some people. We personally like to have this information so we can compare in the future, and who doesn't love more data? Let's go into the numbers. So we typically don't move around as much when we travel as we did on this Bali trip, but surprisingly our accommodation expenses were relatively low. We spent a total of $628 for our total hotels and Airbnbs, which is around like $315 each. Not too shabby for rent for a month. For our accommodations, we just use Airbnb and hotels.com. We read the reviews and we just book ones that we like. Our food total ended up being more than our total accommodation expense, which is a little surprising, but not really because we like to eat. We just eat 2 meals a day. That's just how our diet is. Except in Ubud, our Airbnb included breakfast, so we ended up eating the free breakfast there. But most of the time we just have coffee for breakfast. We had a good mix of a Western and local diet. We spent around $50,000 to $150,000 per meal. After 28 days, that ended up totaling to around $800 total, which is around $400 per person for the month. I won't go through all the categories because you can just look at it on the screen. You can pause here if you want to look at it longer. Overall, we spent $1,840 between the two of us, which is around $900 to $1,000 each for our total month-long stay on Bali. We are not your typical hostel style backpackers, but we also don't splurge on like fancy spas every week. Bali is not the cheapest country we visited on Southeast Asia, but if you're here on a holiday or vacation, it's pretty affordable. The most expensive item will most likely be the flight over. We really hope this helps you with your future adventures on Bali. Check out some of our Bali vlogs if you're interested in seeing our adventures.
Do you agree with these prices? Let us know in the comments below.
If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff.
Thanks so much for watching. We're gonna see you next time.
Bye.
Come, go to the river
I'm
and wash your husband's clothes.
going to wash the clothes.
You're not British.
Just got a British accent on it.